just wants to say thank you to all the beautiful people who made our misery bearable. This eulogy is a compilation as we took things from all the brothers and sisters and the grandchildren, so just bear with me. It is undisputed that my dad was a good man. A man loved by all who came in contact with him. He was always my hero in life. It always figures that he would be a hero in death. He tried to put out the fire in the basement. When he saw he couldn't, he made sure my mom got out of the house. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to save himself. What can I say about the greatest person I've encountered on the face of the earth? Of course, when I speak of my father, I speak also of my mother, for they were one. My brother Tommy would always say, "Hey, DeFinos have no luck." And I said,
I don't know.
that's how I really feel. Anyway, so we don't have any luck. So Tommy, we had the greatest luck in the history of the universe. When we were born to that lady there and our dad, we were the luckiest people on the face of the earth. Of course I'm biased. When I look around the church and I think of the overwhelming number of people we encountered this week, yesterday, today, who love my dad, I can honestly believe that there is no bias. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in your hugs. I can't describe that feeling. And I know he's with you. I know he's with all of us. My dad was one of a kind. He didn't have an enemy and was beloved by anyone who came in contact with him. He loved people, respected all people, and treated them with dignity. Obviously, the golden rule of our religion is to love the Lord your God with your whole heart and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. I know of no other person who embodied these principles more than Dad. This church was his church. He was so proud to be a part of it, and was proud to bring Mom and the family to church here every Sunday. He believed in a good God who was merciful, and loved God with his heart and soul. I would love to have had my father die in his sleep, but that was not in the cards. That was not in the plan. And we just have to accept that we don't know what the plan is. Loving his neighbor was a natural progression from his love of God. I can also tell you that this church was so important, and Father Kelly is so important to all of us. We love him dearly. I mean, he was with us through every dark time. Even some good times. He was with us when our sister Julie passed away. He gave her her last rites. And I remember that vividly like it was yesterday. He was with us on that Sunday night when we were all in agony, and he comforted us. It was great to have him with us, and he is part of our family. When we first met him, he tried to trade Tommy for me. Dad was raised in humble beginnings. He was raised above the coal hall. My grandmother and grandfather owned a Passyunk Pierce in South Philly. His parents, Michael and Julia, were amazing parents, and his siblings were nice people who were fun to be around. My father survived by Uncle Mike, who's 97, and Aunt Marie. Aunt Rose and Uncle Rock predeceased him. He loved them dearly. He was with them constantly. And that's another thing. I can't figure out how a guy could, in 85 years, cover so much territory. I mean, he met so many people and loved so many people. It's amazing to me. Siblings were very much like this. Little side here. I have a tendency, as people know me, to talk in terms of movies. So just bear with me. But I try to paint pictures. The imagery is from movies. A lot of you guys are too young to understand a lot of the movies I'm going to be talking about. We'll get into that. You can Google it later, I guess. But my father's house, if you could picture it, my father, his brothers, were very much like the Marx Brothers, but all of them were grouchy. And my grandmother, Julia, who a lot of kids never met, was Margaret Dumont. Margaret Dumont was a straight woman. And they used to kid her all the time and joke, and she never got the jokes. It was great. My grandfather and grandmother would bicker, and I knew when she was mad at him, she would call him Mr. My father idolized his father, who was an immigrant and spoke broken English, but was brilliant and compassionate. And he gave my father so many of the skills, people skills that he had. He had a great childhood. At one point, Coca-Cola went to my grandfather, and wanted him to be the boy wonder, where he would wear a mask and shoot pool in competitions across the country. My grandfather would not stand for that. My grandfather insisted that Anthony have an education. He was an excellent baseball player too. Fran Alberti is here. He could attest to that fact. He was a great center fielder. And he even had a tryout with the Yankees, but declined. He wanted to be a lawyer. And I'm really happy he wanted to be a lawyer because I had no baseball skills. So I would be in trouble. Dad wanted to be a lawyer and was a phenomenal lawyer. He fought for the little guy. He was Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. He was Jimmy Stewart in Anatomy of a Murder. Anatomy of a Murder is a great movie because Jimmy Stewart's a great trial attorney, and at the end he doesn't get paid, which was my father's life. He was Jefferson Smith, my favorite character, one of my favorite characters. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, because he believed the lost causes are the ones you fight hardest for. His cross-examination skills were excellent. And as a judge, he won many awards. But he'd be the first to tell you that they meant absolutely nothing to him. That people were what it was all about. You know, the awards mean nothing to me. You know, they give me all the awards they want. I just want to see these people. I want to be there and socialize with them. Johnny Scola was a dear friend who couldn't be here, he's sick, but Johnny would facetiously call him Clarence Darrow. I hate Clarence Darrow. Because years and years ago, they had a little interest in a bar that failed immediately. But he had a small interest in this bar. And some poor guy one night breaks into the bar, and there's nothing in the bar. So he's jiggling the cigarette machine, it falls on him. So the police come, he's under the cigarette machine. Can't get a bigger loser than that. So my father felt sorry for him and his family. So my father represented him, got them all. So Scola used to call him, "Hey, Clarence Darrow." After serving in the military at the end of World War II, he went to school in the GI Bill. He went to law school at night at the Gimbel's building, working during the day as a teacher, and working on the weekends with my Uncle Mike at the jewelry store. He didn't have it easy. I was 4 or 5 years old during this time, and my earliest memories were my dad taking me to school with him when he taught, taking me to law school with him, and I used to quietly sit and watch his study group in our basement on 10th Street. He was the consummate teacher. He started teaching me when I was 4 years old. He included me and my brothers and sisters, Julia, Eugene, Carmela, Anthony, Rosemary, Tommy, and Vinny, totally in his life. Like he included everyone. He was a person of inclusion, not exclusion. If there were 8 of us who had friends and he wanted to take us to dinner, 16 people went to dinner. But before law school, in the military, back in high school at Southern High, he met the girl of his dreams. Rose Graziano, our mom. Our mom was everything to Dad. She was his anchor and the cornerstone of our family. Her love was not selfish love. She let him be him, so he could have time to make all these friends. She would call him Duke, and he would call her Dookie Duck. I don't know. This was typically funny to all the grandchildren, especially Joey and Eugene. On the casket, it was a symbol, or it was Duke on it. Duke has no reference to John Wayne, just wanted to let you know. But my father was a man of nicknames, so bear with me. But all the grandkids wanted you to know their nicknames. Well, first of all, everybody was clear-headed. Sal was the clearest. Johnny Skoll was clear-headed. Vince DeMeese is clear-headed. Scott Iscariot's is clear-headed. We have a chancellor, Billy Fadullo, chancellor clear-headed. But most of the grandchildren were clear-heads at different times. But we called them such great things as bum and beautiful teen. But you had to say, little beautiful teen. And a lot of the female grandchildren had that. Tommy Turtle, Dominic the Donkey, Fatso Fogarty, Moonface. Jennifer was Moonface. Cousin Donna was Funnyface. That was cool. Stephanopoulos was my daughter's nickname. Felicia. Mooch. But actually, his first name was Mumbles. Judge Shrees John gave him the name Mooch, and my father carried it through. Much to the chagrin of my wife, but Anthony loved the name so much, he loves it to this day, he wants to be called Mooch. Mikey's Secret Service, because he never spoke. See, he should have been named Harpo, but Harpo was given to Tom. Tommy had a good name. Mikey Mike, Rumpelstiltskin. King's Rumpelstiltskin. I don't know. And his son was Rumple of the Valley. My little Scooch, Nicolina, Rosie Posey, Alicia Felicia, Pest, Horse Cartwright. And nobody knows it. Anthony, my brother Anthony, nobody ever reads. Anthony would be Horse Cartwright, named after some of us older people know Bonanza, and the big guy was Horse Cartwright. Polyface, that was Rose's, Jughead, Bushki Brown, Chickadee, Carmelita. I love Carmelita a lot. The Peanuts were Jimmy and Mikey, my grandchildren. Bibi, Miwi, Carrot Top, Uncle Fester. Adam's Family was Tommy. Harper Marx was Tommy. That's Brad. And my sister's pet nickname, excuse me, was Julie Cooley. Me, my brothers and sisters lived in a Capra-like existence. My father was George Bailey cubed, and it's a wonderful life. His life was a perfect blend of family and friends, friends becoming an extension of our family. Before he had any of us, he treated Uncle Mike and Uncle Rock's kids as if they were his. Then Aunt Rosie and Aunt Marie's children became his. We didn't mind sharing our dad with others in the family. We all had all the love we needed. This extended to my mother's side of the family. Aunt Phil, Aunt Rosie, Aunt Celia, Uncle Frank's kids became his kids. And Katie's kids became his kids. I like to play practical jokes with everybody. And with the nieces and nephews, this was a fun one. He would wait for them to get in the car at night and then throw a blanket over it and then shake and scare them. Most people would have been arrested for abuse, but they loved him. He would play monsters and scare them. And he would scare us, and that became like a family tradition. Friday night, he would hide and scare us. We would love it. And that tradition continues to this day because My grandkids and I scare them, they love it, they run around. And so my dad lives in that stupid exercise. After we married, our spouses loved him, and he was a father to all of them. They're as devastated as my brothers and sisters and I at his loss. Their families were co-opted in ours, the Dregers, the Sheerans, the Franchettys, the Cardulos, the Arroyos, the Nastasis, the Diadamas, the Chirellas, the Tavicalians. I've been practicing that name. The Lombardos, the Chirellas. All became part of our family. Mom and Dad were the greatest grandparents a grandchild could have. All 20 had all the love they needed. Don and I are amazed. With 2, we can't understand how they did it with 20. I mean, it took a little time, but the energy was amazing. This extends to the great-grandchildren, but it didn't end there. My father's family included everyone at the CJC, the Criminal Justice Center, the DA's office, his brother and sister judges, and everyone he encountered. He was a mentor to hundreds of lawyers and judges. His courtroom was a classroom. He cared about everyone as if they were family, and I could see by the outpouring and sorrow, the feeling was mutual. One of his adopted sons is DA Seth Williams. Vinny and I really love and appreciate Seth. And he and his daughters were with us on that Sunday night to share our agony. Seth was an ADA in Dad's courtroom for years. And Dad was not only his mentor, but was instrumental in his running for DA. Dad was so proud of his adopted son, Seth. He was proud of every one of his children, biological or otherwise, because he adopted so many people. And he was encouraging to all of us. Rosemary wanted me to tell you that Dad was a man of substance, a man who loves unconditionally, who loves someone exactly the way they are, accentuating the positive and minimizing their flaws. A person who shows up every day, gets up every morning, gets dressed in a suit, shirt and tie, and more importantly, a smile. No matter what kind of aches and pains or agonies he had. And he had a lot of it. He disguised them so well. I mean, he had so many variables. I mean, just the 8 of us, the spouses, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, and just his aches and pains. A person who's treasured his people. A person who gives what he has to others to make their lives better. Cherishing laughter with family and friends over monetary things. The man who could take children out to dinner every weekend seemed to keep most of them alive. That was amazing. If you've ever seen my family, not to mention who was bad, and let's face it, we had Eugene. Eugene is a legend. The man who sat at the dinner table after dinner, cracking walnuts, eating chestnuts, and asking brain teasers, telling corny jokes, being so proud of whoever solved his stupid brain teaser that he made up. He would say what Philly was, what Philly was an alcoholic back in the 60s.
Bobby White.
No, John Boozer. He's in my head. I mean, the voice, like Howard Stern talks like his mother, and I'm going to start talking like that, because his voice is just echoing in my head. That was not part of this. He just wanted me to tell you. A man who makes you feel safe, and that the world was a fair place filled with good people, and that wrongs could and should be righted. A man of tradition, a man who showed up for everything. He was there at Mass on Sunday. He was at every graduation, every birthday, every award, every bowl game. What an amazing amount of energy. A man who loved his work, was not only intelligent but wise, who understood human behavior and human frailty, and the meaning of justice tempered with mercy. A man who judged only when on the bench. On Sunday nights, we would have the family over. Unfortunately, this was one of those Sunday nights we didn't have everybody together. But usually we'd all be together, and at 7 o'clock on the dot, he would excuse himself and go down the basement, and he would have a stack of files, and the files would be about 3 to 4 feet high. And he would go through every file, and he would read through every paper, and he would read through every letter. And I would say, Dad, you know, most judges don't do this. I mean, they do their work, but you know, Sunday night, you're down the basement for 4 or 5 hours doing this. And he said to me, someday I'm going to face my Maker. And someday I am going to be judged on how I judged. I want that day to be a good day. And I know it is a good day. Man who said hi to everyone he walked past. I was in line around City Hall on the street, and I see my father running across the street. And I said, he's never going to make it. He and John Scola had the most embarrassing joke that they would pull all the time. What they would do is go in a restaurant, and at the end of the meal, say, you were the second best waiter I've ever had. And then the natural response was, wow, who's the first? He said, everybody else is tied for first. We lived in the Bedford Falls section of South Philly. His life touched so many others. No time is a good time to die. This time of year, you know, my two favorite movies are Capra movies. It's a Wonderful Life, and you know, he basically wrote that movie. And Mr. Smith and Mr. Meet John Doe. Meet John Doe was the darker side of Capra. It had to do with a plea for help that eventually Gary Cooper became John Doe, this person who believed in his fellow man and indicated that people should care about people and do good to each other. The golden rule, basically. And these John Doe societies sprang up all over the country. My dad was Jimmy Stewart, Gary Cooper, Cary Grant, Gregory Peck rolled into one guy. And these John Doe societies, people helping other people would be what you would want. So I make a plea to you, just as Father did so eloquently in his homily. With the part of you that died with my father, create a new part of yourself that cares about the other guy. You know I am Anthony J. DeFino. And I think we all are Anthony J. DeFino, just like in Spartacus, I am Spartacus. We are all Anthony DeFino. My dad. We all love you, and we'll miss you beyond imagination. Thank you.